Saving or investing? That is the question. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Francesca, and on this channel I talk about saving, investing, personal finance, business, career, and all that jazz. So if you're interested in understanding why I don't save anymore and I just invest, then keep on watching. Okay, fine. I feel like I need to make a disclaimer here because my title may or may not have been a bit misleading. What I mean by that is I do still save, but I haven't made it a priority in my strategy and my financial plan for the future in quite some time. And I want to explain to you why that is, what my thinking process is, and why I think that maybe this is the right choice for, you potentially as well. Though again, this is my personal story, it's not advice, it's just me sharing what I'm thinking and why I'm doing certain things and making certain decisions, and hopefully you can find this helpful for yourself, but please evaluate your situation personally. Now, what I think can be helpful here actually is giving you a super quick context about who I am and what my situation is in terms of finances. So I'm 25 years old, and I work full-time. I've been working for 1.5 years more or less, so that means that luckily I've had a steady income stream monthly for the past 1.5 years. Prior to that, I've been saving and investing, and my financial journey started when I was 22, I want to say, so three and something years ago. And my first ever focus, let's say, when I was first starting to learn more about budgeting, finance, and investing, was actually more towards the budgeting side of things. And where I got started was with saving. So my first ever goal that I had was to have create an emergency fund that would basically be there in case anything was gonna go south, and kind of that I could rely on for any impending needs or sudden expenses. This is very it's usually common practice when you watch videos about personal finance from these experts, also financial advisors. The first thing that they usually tell you is create an emergency fund, and this, I find, it's a great first goal to set for yourself if you're just now getting started in the personal finance world. How you go about doing that? Well, I made a video on this in Italian though, so I'll still link it down below in case you speak Italian. I plan on doing that in English as well, so stay tuned for that. But basically, how you would go about doing that is calculating what your typical expenses are, and then multiply that by however many months you want to be covered for, or you feel most comfortable having aside, and then just set that as your target amount of money to save, and you're good to go. Then all the money that you manage to put aside from after all your base expenses every month will be redirected towards that emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund is just a cash reserve, basically. So these are funds, money that you keep most likely than not in a savings account. They're not invested, they're not working for you, so they're just staying there, usually gaining a little bit of interest, even though these days it's really not that much. We'll talk more about that later. So they gain that 1-2% interest if you're lucky, but you just keep them there and you don't touch them. So in my situation, as I said, I'm 25. I've been actively involved in saving and investing and personal finance for a couple of years now, so I have hit that goal for me of kind of having an emergency fund. when things changed was when I heard about the magical concept of compound interest. Now, if you are new here, I'm about to change your life. Let me tell you that. Albert Einstein is said to have defined it as the most powerful force in the world, and if he says that, I believe the man, you know. But basically, it refers to the principle that when you invest money, as well as, you know, earn interest on the investments, you also earn interest on the interest itself, so it compounds over time. Therefore, you know, every year that the money is in the stock market and is working for you, you are earning interest on each previous year's interest. So that means that not only are your your savings and your investments growing over time, but that the rate at which they grow gets faster as well, and it grows exponentially. Now, the thing is, you know, the average interest rate on a savings account these days is so low compared to, you know, what it was in the past. I think we're now at around, you know, the 0.5% or 1% on an average kind of like UK savings account, which is really not that much, and especially compared to what you can get on average by investing in the stock market. So the average return, in the last 80 years for the S&P 500 has been around the 9 to 10%. So it really doesn't even come close to that. And so your money is much better off invested in the long run in a total market ETF, or like your S&P 500, so a broad collection of stocks, rather than sitting in your bank account where it is effectively losing money, because on top of that you need to account for inflation. Now, we are in very peculiar times, I want to say, right now, so the inflation rates are at all-time lows, but they will go up again, and it's safe to assume that, you know, a healthy inflation rate, let's say it's around, 2%. So, you know, whatever interest rate you're promised by your bank, for example, on your savings account, you need to take out of that 2%. So that basically, you know, in positive cases, that means that your money is just remaining the same, is not losing value. But in like less positive cases, it might even mean that your money is losing value effectively. So this is why I believe that, especially when you're young, time is on your side, so you should really be prioritizing investing. Because when you're young, when you're especially in your 20s, but with investing, usually the sooner the better, really. But in your 20s, your risk tolerance is usually quite high, because your earning power is very high. So that means that your prospects of, hopefully if everything goes to plan, of course, but generally speaking, your prospects of earnings are way higher at this moment in time than they will be later down the line. So say, for example, you are 25, you still have 40 years of income, again, hopefully, and your income generally is also expected to grow over time as you become more experienced and you progress down the up the corporate ladder and so on and so forth, and you acquire more skills, so you are more marketable, let's say, and you can sell your expertise for more. So you are expected in a way to be earning more as you grow older, and so that means that you can weather relatively well losses that you might incur in through investing in more risky investment vehicles such as stocks, but the rewards for those, I think, that outweigh the potential risks that you could incur. Now, as a way of example, if an individual, for example, was to start investing £100 a month at the age of 30 and then continued until they were 60, by the end of it, they would have invested with a 10%, let's say, annual rate, a sum of £217,000. However, if they started saving 100 a month at the age of 20, stopped when they were 30 and left the money in invested in the stock market until they turned 60, they would have accumulated £367,000. So that's a good £150,000 more. So the magic of compound interest is that, in this example, means that investing for 10 years can be more profitable than 30 years if you start earlier. So really, when you're young, time is on your side, and I think you should really be capitalizing on that, the magic of and the power of time being on your side. So this is why I am now prioritizing investing, and I have been prioritizing investing for the past year at this point. What that means for you, and what I would advise, kind of like anyone getting started now with their finances is, do start with your emergency fund. So save and put aside whatever that number is that you've come up with based on your monthly expenses. So your first goal, make it that to have that emergency fund, and you can decide to put aside kind of 3 months, 2 months, 3 months, even 6 months. Some financial advisors say that 6 months should be a healthy emergency fund to have. I personally don't feel the need to have that much money just sitting in a bank account, but whatever makes you sleep at night, basically whatever gives you peace of mind. If it's 6 months, if it's a year even, right, of just cash that you have in your bank account, by all means do that. But once you do have that, then do start investing, do prioritize investing, because in the long run your money is effectively able to work for you, and you will reap many more rewards from that. But again, this is my experience. You need to come to a conclusion and a decision about that for yourself. But hopefully at least I gave you some food for thought. I introduced you potentially to the concept of compound interest in case you didn't know it before, or I've just made it even more an appealing kind of case for you right now, kind of talking about this and explaining with some numbers how this all works for you. And having said that, I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye.